Welcome to the podcast where together, every Monday, we explore hospitality in its very broadest sense. From culture and cooking, cocktails and coffee, nutrition and farming, politics and animal welfare, organic and sustainability, family and business, entrepreneurship, and much, much more. Come and learn with me, Mark Cribb, about where our food and our drink comes from, and the businesses and, more importantly, the human beings that thrive on where we decide to spend our time and our money. Sign up to our weekly newsletter at humansofhospitality.co.uk and hit subscribe on your podcast player of choice. There's a general feeling in hospitality that when an independent restaurant is successful and starts replicating itself, it is in danger of losing its soul, especially when it reaches around 20 sites. And that's why I was keen to chat to this week's guests, the co-founders of Honest Burgers, Tom Barton and Philip Eeles. I'd heard a few times that they are living proof that this compromise doesn't have to be the case. Now, regular listeners will know that I'm very passionate about the little guy and the humans rather than the brands of hospitality. So with 36 venues and a team of 777 people, Honest Burgers are, in terms of numbers, a chain. But I wanted to find out how they absolutely and genuinely don't act like one. Have they found the utopia of the benefits rather than the disbenefits of scale? Now, what was apparent from our very wide-ranging conversation is that they are obsessive about the details and still refuse to compromise. They still make all their own chips and wouldn't give a frozen version the time of day, and they also have their own butchery, which produces chopped, not minced beef, to deliver the satisfying texture that fine, medium-rare burgers deserve. And they encourage the managers of each venue to go out and discover independent food and drink producers to collaborate with at a local level. As you listen, you'll hear many more examples of how to grow a company and remain true to your principles. I very much hope you enjoy this week's conversation. Okay, Tom and Phil from Honest Burgers, thank you so much for sparing the time. Very excited to come and chat with you about your journey over the last few years. Phil, can I just ask, where on planet Earth are we, please? Do you mind just setting the scene?
We're in what we colloquially call the Fish Bowl, which is our excuse for a boardroom in our office in Borough, near Borough, just off Southwark Street.
Yeah, just in the great city. I've sat in many worse places, little cupboards and packing rooms and all sorts of places. Very rarely is money spent back a house. This is quite nice. You've got like a door and everything.
Yeah, we've got doors,
windows.
Yeah, you're
natural
quite
light.
Posh. Yeah, it's
this
nice.
is a vast improvement on what it was a few months ago.
Yeah.
Well, weeks ago even, I think.
Yeah, we had a big like crisis talk, sort out our head office. It's just a dumping ground.
Right.
So it's a bit better now, but we've got big plans for the future that hopefully we might go into later.
Okay, great. You didn't do this one for about 20 quid as well, because what's blown me away most about researching your story in the last 24 hours is the fact that you managed to open a restaurant for $7,500, which we're going to come to. But what was this? Yeah, did you do it all yourselves? I was even listening to you.
I think actually, the mindset when we took this office on was still the mindset of the $7,500.
Right.
Do it as everything has to be, cheap as possible. Forget about that. It's all about the restaurant. It's all about customer. It's all about that. That was what we're focusing on, which was what we needed at the time. But now you're a bigger company. You need to start investing in everything. You can't just close the door on some things. So yeah, there's a big kind of topic to take on.
Chunky, meaty start.
Start with that.
Straight in with the
challenge. I think I've just come from a big meeting with our project manager talking about how we're going to change everything up. So yeah, that's why I'm in that zone.
It's true. It really is true. Actually, when we did our little central support, like let's have it out about the office, I sort of made an apology really, because I think, like Tom says, there's a bit of an overhang of us. Roll your sleeves up, get on with it. Like the important ones are out in the restaurant. You guys are just here in the office, and it's it's not fit for purpose anymore. We're not just 3 or 4 members of staff.
I think it's usual, to be fair, in hospitality specifically, is all of the cash, especially in the early days, goes front of house. But I always think you can probably, and this isn't meant reference to this because I say I've done these in cupboards where people haven't spent the money, but certainly in the restaurants, I always I judge a place almost by how smart back of house is, because if you go behind the scenes in restaurants and bars and it's clean and it's tidy and it's well organised, then you can kind of go, okay, great, they actually genuinely care.
I think completely agree. I think organisation and standards. They're everywhere, and it shouldn't just be, a shiny front of house and then a terrible back of house. And then this is, I guess we'd seen this as back of house and less important. And now we've got 20 odd people that call this home sort of Monday to Friday.
Yeah. So you've got to set a standard. There is a sign I did see as soon as I walked in, underlined on the wall, it does say "Office makes me ill" on the whiteboard. Was that the topic of the last meeting?
It really was.
Was there the plague in here, or was it just the fact that you should all be working in the
cold
venues?
in here, so yeah, it's probably.
AC and temp has been. What we did, I mean, we're really fixating on this office. What we actually did is our head of people got everyone outside the office, everyone in central support, so 40 to 50 people, and she gave them red post-it notes and yellow post-it notes, and everyone had to go in teams and just anything they thought just shouldn't fucking be here. Oh, there's one. You put a red post-it on, and if you like it, part of the office put a yellow post-it on.
Okay.
And it was just a sea of red.
Thousands of post-its.
Did either of you end up with a red post-it note on you, or were you?
I did actually. Someone, I think Chris put one on me.
Chris put one on the door. Yeah, as a
my bike, the aforementioned bike that you noticed that hasn't been used for about 6 months, got peppered with red.
Yeah.
Really? But it's still here, as are you guys.
I'm close to just leaving it outside for some.
I've got another meeting. I could borrow it for the afternoon, and
seriously, he wouldn't notice for a couple of years. I don't think. Yeah.
Well, I feel already. I said an hour, but maybe 3 hours because we've gone off on quite a tangent. So bringing it back in, and I'm looking forward to darting around your history a little bit, but just to put it in context for people who don't know. Honest, and Tom, I'll start with you. Can you just give us a bit of a background? How many venues have you got? What cities are you in?
So we are national. Started in London. We've got the majority are in London. We've got 36, which is including like a Deliveroo kind of dark kitchen.
Okay.
We've got a prep kitchen. We've got head office. We've got this thing on Workplace, which is our kind of internal comms system, which is basically it's owned by Facebook. And it's a good sort of mark on how many people were working for us now. And I checked this morning, and it's 777.
Wow.
Are on our Team Honest group.
It's a nice round number. Can you keep it at 777? Yeah. I think if you were in China, it'd be lucky if it was 888 at least.
Yeah,
that feels like a nice symmetry.
7 is my lucky number, actually. Yeah,
is
so
it?
It's a good number.
Yeah.
We got our own butchery, we got our own prep kitchen. I'm massively bragging now.
No, that's good. It just gives a little bit of context and it's, background to this, pre this. What hospitality experience had you had before we get into the kind of festival side of the business, Phil? Where I'll come back to you.
So for me, it was I kind of gone into hospitality as a bit of fun. I think on my first job, 14, I was a glass collector at our local pub, and just thought it was quite good fun. My parents pushed me into it because it's great. I think every kid should do a bit of work in hospitality because it just gives you a bit of confidence, doesn't it? In chatting to strangers and grown-ups and walking around. So I did that, and then went to uni in Brighton. Needed some money, so I worked through uni. So I worked in bars and clubs and restaurants, never in the kitchen side of things, weirdly. It was always front of house. And then actually met Phil working in the restaurant that kind of changed my life, really. That restaurant, Riddle and Fins. I met my wife there, I met Phil there. Who is more important?
You're two of your favourite humans. I was waiting for that. You've given me the sort of knowing wink of knowing who it is.
Well, he can't say it. He can't say it on the podcast.
Obviously not, but I think it's obvious
his wife
to everyone. What is your wife's name?
She's called Connie. Yeah.
Okay. And similar to you, Phil, you were clearly, if you met in a restaurant, and did you?
Very similar. I don't know. Maybe this is a bit generalistic, but you don't. As a kid, you sort of when you need a part-time job, you either end up in a shop, temping in an office, or you end up in a restaurant or a bar, don't you? And I was always found myself in restaurants. My first job was, I think I was 17. I worked in Ravenwood Hall, Country Manor, back in Suffolk.
Bow tie.
Always front of house as well, or everyone?
Always front of house. Yeah.
Okay. Silver service.
Yeah.
Dreary.
So it was like, we had to go. It was Sunday lunch. You used to go over with like a platter as long as your arm full of vegetables and give it to people with a spoon and a fork.
Wow.
Which
with no teeth.
For some reason that's really good service. I never understood it then, and I certainly don't understand it now. But yeah, would you like a carrot, sir? And I'll sort of try and pincer it
Balance
between
it.
these cutlery, and I'll put it on your plate for you.
Yeah, why is it a spoon and a fork and not just a pair of
Why is
tongs?
that? And
Like
I
you
remember
always
being
have
so.
that.
I remember literally like when I learned how to do it, it was like a big deal.
Yeah.
I swear, like if you ask my brother and mum, that Christmas I made everyone, I silver served everyone because that was really cool. I was like, look what I can do, and I was like silver serving the roast potatoes at Christmas to all my family. And I
Did
was
they
like,
feel equally as uncomfortable? And
yeah, I mean, what a waste. Why is
Did
that,
you wear
why
a
is
bow
that
tie
good
then?
service? You know, but we'll probably come on to how I feel about hospitality, certainly in the burger sector. I'm not saying Country House is the same as our burger restaurants, but it's funny what we think silver service is like the elite.
I did the same. I worked in a Michelin star restaurant, hotel in Bath with the Priory, and I learned a lot of technical, kind of the kind of do's and don'ts and how you serve from the right kind of side of someone and afternoon tea and stuff. But yeah, it wasn't an enjoyable place to work at all. It was really strict, and we were wearing white shirt, waistcoat, bow tie, and it could be 50 degrees in the kitchen, even more on a summer's day, and you were literally like drenched in sweat. You didn't look good, but you were in a bow tie, and it was like that was enough for you. And apparently that's what everyone wanted. But
it's funny that I think as kids, I remember my parents going out for a meal was a big deal, and they'd go maybe 3 or 4 times a year. So I guess the shift has been to this whole boom in casual dining and in hospitality has kind of been binning all of that and basically making it feel comfortable, isn't it? Because if you were going to do that, you didn't really relax. It felt like a big deal, didn't it? You always needed to put a tie on.
Yeah,
to
it
go
was.
out.
Right. If going out for dinner felt like a real event, didn't it? And I think particularly in this city now, like it's just. Should we go for a burger? It's 10 o'clock at night. Yeah, why not?
it's a catch up, isn't it? Yeah, it's a bit fun. I just remembered there was a harpist in the corner of that restaurant.
Wow, really?
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
On a Sunday, you'd get a harpist.
Yeah. Well, they still exist. They're still out there. But,
Every good restaurant needs a harpist.
Of course. I presume you have one in every Honest. And then, so you were working for other people.
Yeah.
You'd had this idea kicking around that you wanted to potentially be self-employed, and then I was watching a video where Tom mentioned that you were on a ski lift and had an epiphany. Is that true? And I'd like to hear the story from you. Why on earth were you thinking of Tom on a ski lift?
Doing some soul
or were you
searching,
or were you hungry?
Okay. Okay. So, where are we? About 2009 at this point, and we worked together in Midland Fins. Joked about doing something, and I mean, like, really, like, haha, why don't we do something at a festival?
No, 2007, isn't it?
Okay, so name, like that,
Detail.
And, detail.
Use your spreadsheets.
You get the understanding of how our relationships and we joked about doing something, let's do a stand, let's do festivals, blah, 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 wouldn't it be funny if we could do it, But I was trying to be a journalist at the time. That's why I was actually in Brighton. I'd finished my degree in Canterbury, and I'd gone down to Brighton to do like the NCTJ postgrad thing. So I was
philosophy degree.
Did a philosophy degree, which I absolutely loved. I recommend it to anyone. But that sounded like I was being sarcastic. I'm actually serious. It's an amazing thing to do. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, then the journalism thing wasn't really happening. A bit of a sliding doors moment. I was doing part-time stuff and work experience, blah, 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 and I went to a sports agency, which I wanted to be a sports writer. Did 2 weeks there. They were really happy. I was really happy. About a week later, they called me up and said, look, we need someone to go to the Sunday People on Saturday to help write the sport pages. Can you do it? And I couldn't, this was on like the Friday, so super short notice. I couldn't get the manager of Riddle and Fins where we worked to give me the day off. I was meant to be on a double shift on the Saturday. And like a very good, diligent, hardworking young chap that I was like, okay, no worries, yeah. Thanks for trying. So I called up the agency and said, look, I can't do this one, but, keep me in mind for the next one. Of course, never heard from them again. And that kind of began my spiral out of journalism and into restaurants. And I've always enjoyed restaurants. But, yeah, I think I was 27 now. I was like, what am I actually doing here? And I'm sure a lot of your listeners in the similar age are perhaps feeling the same. I've done a couple of ski seasons before, so I was like, sod it, I'm going to go off to the mountains for 6 months. Got myself a job over there. Doing some sort of low-level ski instructing, beginner kind of English school groups, and just found myself sat on a lot of windy chairlifts with a bunch of kids that didn't really want to be there. And I thought, shit, what am I going to do when I get back to the UK? And that's when Mr. Barton popped into my head.
Rather than a kindergarten, you thought.
Yeah. And I thought, actually, let's just, fuck it, why not? Let's go back and I'm going to give him a call. And he'd left Riddle and Fins by this point. Like, we were still in touch, but we weren't like best mates or anything, but I thought, no, do you know what? Why not? Nothing to lose. Let's go with it. And I kind of reconciled myself. Both my parents were teachers, so I was like, if this doesn't work, I'll go be a teacher. I've always felt like it's a bit of a backup.
Okay.
I could be a teacher. I think I could be a decent teacher. I understand that world. I grew up with teachers, so yeah, I thought that's my backup. I'll give Tom a call when I get back in April, and that's what we did.
Okay. So you didn't loathe the kids that you were sharing a chairlift with enough to put you off teaching for life, at least.
No,
But,
I
try
love,
something else.
I love skiing. I've done ski seasons like a lot of people do ski seasons, which is work in a hotel, clean a few toilets, go skiing all day, get wrecked in the evening, do it again for 20 weeks in a row. But this one was a bit more serious. I actually had to ski every day, which sounds amazing for those of your listeners who like skiing, but actually sometimes you don't want to ski.
Yeah,
and sometimes the kids don't want to ski.
Yeah.
So it was it was an interesting experience. But no, I came back very much invigorated that, do you know what, I'm going to give Tom a call let's give that thing a go. So
okay, and the first incarnation of this then was into the festival side of it. So this wasn't let's open a restaurant. It was let's sell food.
To be super clear, I mean, there's not even a bit of us, even after probably 6 months of doing the street food thing, that we actually ever thought we'd have a restaurant. Like we didn't.
Yeah,
I never even dreamed that
we
we get to restaurant level. I was like, this be a bit of fun. Why not? Let's have a go, and we'll try and change the festival burger, which is crap.
Yeah.
It's thin, over minced, grey, tasteless, kind of scrape off the bottom of the floor meat, and then you get charged £10 for it.
Yeah.
So we were like, we can change all that.
Okay, and you were doing it, Tom. You were doing this not in Big Plus. I mentioned Phil and Flower earlier, who I interviewed a few weeks ago. They were the meat delivery guys, and they talked about trying to get in onto some of the gigs like Glastonbury, which I think they did actually do, and they did the V Festival, actually cooking for Richard Branson VIP kind of style once. But the amount of money involved in the big festivals, it was something like £28,000 or something, just to get in on the first one.
That was our biggest kind of first bit of bad planning, I'd say, when we decided to go into this. We had this bit of cash. We had $2.5 grand each that we put in together.
We spent half of that on a marquee.
I heard about marquee. Emerald Green.
Honestly, that was I don't know what I was thinking. I just felt like we needed to invest in the foundation.
Well, to be fair,
I think
a restaurant would
it was
cost
a
you
joint
more,
decision.
so.
I won't let you
It's a good marquee. It's
Have you still got it?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, and it's been through some batterings.
Yeah.
Like we did Festival number 6 a few years ago, and I'm not joking. The entire staff campsite got evacuated because I was up there when it was like the gale force winds. Tents were literally flying off into the ozone, just disappearing. And I went back there, and it was like, mate, it was hilarious. And then I went back in the morning, and it was carnage. And the only thing that was standing was our marquee in the middle.
Did you feel vindicated? Did you get a photo?
That's what happens when you spend £2,500
Yeah,
on a
exactly.
marquee.
So,
buy once, buy well. Don't get that throwaway
It
stuff.
was a little
So we bought
frivolous,
this marquee and thought, let's, like Phil said, let's do the festival burger because that's all we don't need to invest loads of cash. We've got a grill, we've got a fryer, we've got all this passion, we've got an idea what we want it to be. We've never tried what we think a really great burger is in a restaurant or in a festival setting or anywhere really. So we thought this could work, and then we just started trying to book some festival events.
Yeah.
And we were like, can we come along and do it? And they were like, yeah, that's fine. Just give me 10 grand.
Yeah.
Just for the pitch.
We were like, okay. But we did all these things. And then we were like, look, we can't afford to do any of the big events. Even if we could afford to do the big events, we can't afford to buy the food.
That's
to
the
do
big, that's the biggest thing.
Like,
It's all well and good getting into Glastonbury. To make any money, you need about £30,000 worth of stock.
yeah, you've got like shipping containers of, refrigerated shipping containers. You've got to hire that. You've got all this infrastructure that we just had not thought through. We were like, right,
It's
we're definitely...
huge business, isn't it?
Yeah, it's big and it's risky because, we did Festival number 6, lost tons of money because it was an absolute washout.
Yeah,
No one left by Sunday. You've just got to bite that if it happens.
I think you've got to average it out over sort of 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Knowing you'll get a couple of good ones and a couple of crap ones.
But we
Basically,
just thought we were indestructible back then. We were so I don't say arrogant. I think it was more naive that we were just like, we can do it because it was me and him were the ones doing it. So
I'd say we were both.
Yeah, probably. I think the opinion was if the opportunity was there, we would maximise that opportunity. So if there was, 1,000 customers, we'll serve 999 of them if we can. We'll do everything we can do to get there. But we just didn't have enough cash. We spent it all on the marquee.
Right. but you did end up quite quickly, Phil, doing some festivals. Was it the Brighton Food Festival? Was it?
Brighton Food Festival, yeah.
What were the first ones that you?
That was actually a good one. We made a
yeah.
bit of money at that one. I mean, this was our large for about a year.
Yeah.
And I always describe it a bit more like a hobby, really, because I was actually running Riddle and Fins by this point. I was a manager there. I remember saying to the owners that I wanted to do my own thing, but I need more experience. And I said, can I run one of your restaurants?
Right.
They had 2 in Brighton. And they were like, yeah, go for it, man. I was like, awesome.
Yeah, I swiftly...
That was a good interview.
At that point, Tom left Riddle.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be your number 2.
Yeah, got in there before the inevitable. Yeah. So it was like, you take your 2 days off, and that's when you start prepping chips for the weekend, for a festival or whatever. So that was us for a year. We did Brighton Food Festival. That was good, actually. We had 2 days there. We actually made some money. We always got great feedback.
Yeah, I was going to say, instantaneously good feedback.
Almost instant. People were like, wow, that's a really great chip with rosemary salt. That's incredible. And that's a really nice burger with proper meat.
I remember the first ever job we did was actually, it was a 18th birthday party. There was a friend of my mum's who'd gone out on a massive limb for us. And I remember, so we were serving like pissed up 18-year-olds who, they didn't really care what it was as long as it was.
Yeah, we could have served them shit in the bun and they'd be.
Yeah. But there was a couple of grown-ups there who were eating off, and one of them was an outside caterer, and I remember her eating it and she absolutely loved it. It's a friend of my mum's, and she's a professional outside catering business and, been in the industry a long time. And she loved it, and I was like, this is pretty cool. Like, I've actually got, some feedback from someone who's got a sort of half-decent palate. And I'd cooked a lot of food for my mates at uni, and that's what got me into food, was that kind of instant reward you get when you kind of feed someone something and they like it. And it's like, that's really cool.
That's the drug of street food, I think. That's what people get hooked on from an owner point of view, and that is just actually handing someone a bit of food over a table and getting to watch them take their first bite in front of you, and just, it's quite a unique feeling. And I think that party was the first time we'd ever really taken money for some food that we'd created and got that reaction. It was a bit like a drug.
And why was the reaction good? What was different? Because burgers and chips have been around for a long time, haven't they? And so why was it so special?
Rosemary salt.
Yeah, rosemary
Rice cooked chips as well, which we did back then. That was
triple cooked chip with rosemary salt. Really
thanks,
blew people's
Heston,
minds.
for that. Yeah.
The focus is always on good meat. I think that's where and actually the best thing about a burger should be the meat, in our opinion, not necessarily everything that goes on top of it. So,
and it's homemade, man. That was the biggest thing for us. Like, we didn't, most burger restaurants, not today, but back then, you have a burger from a outside catering outlet. It's a bought-in patty. It's a bought-in floury bap that you probably had at school on your bacon sandwiches that's been frozen already. The burger's been minced about 5 times. It's been pre-seasoned. It's literally just trim from that butcher's, Phil put it off the floor, hopefully not off the floor, but it's not great quality. And trim is completely inconsistent. You might get some great bits, you might get some crappy lean bits. So for us to be like, even that burger, our first burger back then was 100% chuck steak. And it was way more expensive than getting trim, obviously, but you could taste the difference, and it was consistent. You had a good fat content, and it was only minced on a 5mm plate, so it was texture and stuff that we just thought it felt right, and it tasted good. And it was this kind of chunky, homemade, farmer's market style burger that happened to be something we'd just been cooking for mates at uni. It was that style, and then rosemary salt on the chips, and we were like, this is really cool. This is this homemade thing is how you differentiate yourself. And I don't think that's how, we didn't think that far into it. It was just about doing something that we were proud of. I wanted to cook food that I could invite my friends down to eat it, and they would give me that instant reward that I was sort of seeking, where I would feed them and they would pat me on the back and say, that's great.
Yeah.
Like a good little kind of puppy.
Yeah. I'm smiling because I'm having a flashback. So I've not forgotten, but I haven't thought of it for a while. So my parents had a catering wagon on the markets when I was a kid, and I remember going in and helping them regularly, and I'm having flashbacks of those burgers that had a bit of greaseproof paper, the frozen box of 48, a bit of greaseproof paper in between each one, and peeling it off and slapping it on the griddle.
They get thrown on, they get cooked, and then they get stacked up in the corner of the grill, don't they?
Yeah, all ready to go. You add all of them with cheese, otherwise they wouldn't be particularly moist.
Kind of subtle pink texture runs through.
It's amazing how far street food seafood's come, really.
That was our sort of, it's the thing we were trying to change.
Yeah.
People always think it's like a swear word to say McDonald's around us, but I think McDonald's is great. Like, you pay 99p for a burger, they're not trying to pretend it's anything that it isn't, right? And they're actually a really fantastic company for loads of reasons that they don't get any credit for, which I won't go into. But they are. They do some incredibly innovative stuff, and they don't get any credit for it because they're McDonald's.
Yeah.
But it's the guys that want to serve rubbish and still charge you a lot of money.
Yeah,
that really
of which there were a lot. And at that time, were you called Honest Burgers straight away? Was the name from the start?
Honest Eating Company at this point, because we thought maybe if we need to branch out, people might not.
Which we did. We did a couple of hog roasts.
Okay. Yeah, we did 1 or 2 hog roasts. Yeah,
because everyone loves a hog roast, but our heart wasn't in that.
No. So, learned some good stuff, great feedback, and then at some point you decided, right, let's do a restaurant. And I don't know whether you met Dorian, and was he a trigger for the restaurant? Were you already thinking about opening a restaurant? How did that come about?
And we didn't have any money, so we weren't making any money, were we? From Honest Eating Company, we were loving it. It was good fun, but like Phil said, it was a hobby. We were still sustaining our life with full-time restaurant jobs, so we're going to probably burn out if we carried on doing it. I just don't think we really realised that. So we had a bit of a lucky break with a guy I was living with at uni. Just like go into the full detail of this, just how long-winded it is. My mate I was living with at uni.
Phil's going to have a rest.
Yeah. Lots of different connections. But I came across a guy called Dorian, who's a mate of his older brother's. And Dorian worked with Strada, worked with Bill's, did a couple of things with them. Kind of seasoned restaurant operator, and he just all he heard about us is we were 2 lads from Brighton cooking burgers, and we were called Honest. So we met him, and he sort of said, "Are you interested in the restaurant industry?" And we were like, "Yeah, we both worked a lot in restaurants, but haven't got any money." But we got on really well. We actually went up to his house in Clapham, and he's obviously had a good career under his belt. Nice house. I think we were duped a little bit. We walked in and we were like, maybe he wants to
checkbook.
bankroll us a restaurant.
Yeah,
we thought he
was like this uber multi-millionaire restaurateur guy.
Yeah. So we agreed we were going to do it. We were going to go out and give it a go, but the kind of penny dropped quite savagely when Dorian was like, right, yeah, I'm going to come on board. I'm interested. I'll put in whatever you guys can put in. Which obviously he knew that was absolutely fuck all. So yeah, so each one twice already. So we put in $2,500 each to get to this massive number, 7,500. Plus we had the kit from Honest Eating Company. So we had a grill, we had a fryer, some tables. We had a lot of old doors. We used to use.
We love the barn door.
Yeah, I still like a barn door. We had all that kit, and then it was like that $7,500 wasn't meant for a restaurant. The idea was we would go out, we'd put a business plan together, a nice sexy pack that would lure in a rich VC or a friend. Dorian has got a couple of wealthy friends who are in that industry may want to invest. So that's what we were thinking was going to happen.
That's certainly what Dorian was thinking was going to happen, wasn't
it?
Yeah. Write a plan, get investment, open a high street burger restaurant.
And I think we thought, why not? Why wouldn't we want to do that? Like it would be
sounds better than
great.
using all of your weekends in festivals, breaking even.
I remember the drive back to Brighton after meeting him for the first time. You'd all piled into my girlfriend's Cinquecento. We had all this kit in the back, and I remember us just being like, late at night, just being like, holy shit, like we could have this might happen, like we might open a restaurant, like this guy's gonna help us open a restaurant.
What about what you guys were doing had appealed to him? Because he'd done some, like you say, some big stuff. This was potentially the VC route. Why was he talking to a couple of guys who were selling burgers at the weekend?
He'd been burned a little bit by the industry. I don't want to speak for him. I think if he was sat here he'd say it as well. I think he'd been through the Strada journey, which as a concept when it started was incredibly innovative, really great fresh Italian food, sort of drove that Italian kind of wave of restaurants in London, and he was part of that almost from its infancy. Grew up in that business through sort of area management and coming ops, and then saw it get bought out by the big corporate company, and just saw that culture get chipped away a little bit, and they just did all the classic things that we all think chains do, don't they? You know, they tried to save money, they tried to make more money in certain areas, and Strada just gradually peeled away. And I think those guys like Dorian, who've been in it from the start, just felt a bit kind of, you know, disillusioned by it, I guess. So I think feeling like it's about time, you know, he made a lot of money for other people, could he do something for himself? And then heard about these two young lads knocking out burgers. He liked the name, he was very keen on Honest, he thought it was a strong brand name, but also he had a better understanding of what was going on in London than we did on the food scene, and he could see this burger thing happening. You know, Byron had just opened probably
I think
maybe
five
or six restaurants by this point, and
Mm-hmm.
they were the talk on the town. I mean, my brother was at uni in London, and he told me, you got to try a Byron burger. So I think he could see this burger thing happening.
And
Took a punt, you know, come up and then cook me a burger and see what you think, lads. And you know,
but Meat Wagon had just. My wife actually got me onto Meat Wagon, and they were in Peckham, going around and doing a few pub car parks, and I tried their burger and was like, oh my god, that's insane, but not what we wanted to be. We wanted to go down a different road, but I was like, I just saw, you know, there was like 200 people waiting for this burger, and then a really shitty little like white box. It was like no branding, no nothing, and they were all there because it was like something I'd never tried before. So I think there was kind of rumbling, and yeah, what we wanted to do was do things differently and make things ourselves and go that extra mile. I think our food was all right back then, but I mean, well, we thought it was all right back then. We do this thing called Honest Day now, where we induct all of our sort of team members that work for us for 4 weeks or more. They come and they do a day, and they come spend a bit of time with me and Phil. And part of that day, we show them the first photo shoot that I did, that always gets a few laughs because the burgers looked awful in it, but we thought they were amazing. You know, we had like focaccia bun. Don't know where that came from. Although I do see quite a few of the big boys using focaccia buns now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a few specials. But anyway, there's that, and then there was like a pile of cheese like crumbling in the side, and a bit of like streaky bacon. It was all like really wanky. But
oh, that was a big one.
but it was, yeah, it was, you know, we were starting to develop this kind of concept that was massively around this word honest, and it was a British sort of style, British take with great ingredients and homemade food.
So if when you left and you're heading back to Brighton, you're thinking, or a little bit afterwards, you know, you've got the 7.5K and you go, right, we're going to go the VC route and we're going to get some backing and stuff. Why did all of a sudden that change to we're going to open in Brixton? I think it was your fault.
So yeah, I take full credit for that one. I moved to London to basically, I was only working in this restaurant, so I could just sort of up sticks and leave. So I moved to London with my wife, and we got a flat in Brixton, and literally just very luckily we went for a stroll on a Sunday afternoon and walked through Brixton Village, and just fell in love with the place immediately. Thought this is incredible, and there was, you know, quite a few restaurants there, but not what it is today. But there was still that same buzz that I had when I was at the Meat Wagon. You know, people were just desperate to go there, and people queuing up. I hadn't really seen that before. You know, people generally just sat there waiting for an hour for a table in a tiny little, you know, sort of fresh homemade pasta restaurant or something like that. I was like, this is cool.
What year was this?
That would have been about 2010, I reckon.
Yeah.
So
end of 2010.
Yeah. So I then phoned up Phil and Dor and was like, this place is amazing. And I think they were like, nah, like they'd never heard of Brixton, but as I hadn't, you know, sort of 5 seconds before that. But I then went down on a Thursday night when it was, because it was only open Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights then. I went on Thursday night, it was absolutely buzzing down there. Really good vibe, great food again. And
we were hearing stories, weren't we, of this pizza guy doing 200 pizzas a night.
Yeah, Frank Amanka was...
Frank Amanka's first original, and then...
Wow, is that where they started?
Yeah.
Their first one, and this is the story. You sold me on that, and you're like, no, there's this pizza dude. He's doing like 200 pizzas a night. And he's queue out the door.
He's
like,
on back then he was on his own in Market Road. Like there's quite a few restaurants in Market Road now. He was the only one back then, and he was just bringing in people from all over.
Amazing.
Like proper visionary. What's his name? Giuseppe.
Giuseppe.
He was there when the market was rough as well. Like when we were there, it was a bit ropey. I remember
No, he definitely laid.
But he went there. He went there years before us. So he's good for him. But we, I got Dora and Phil to come down and see it, and then they fell in love with it straight away. So then it was it's probably one of the most kind of up and down points of my entire life. From when Dorian had got me a job working at South Bank Giraffe. I've never felt so undermined just for being a human being in my entire life. It was there
because of the customers or the corporate culture.
Daily, I would get clicked.
Really?
Yeah, people would just go out.
Is this the Americans or?
No, mostly like sort of. I think they're Italians and French and people, kids just like mashing food into furniture, and you just have to go around.
Such a busy place.
Yeah, so brutal. And I was working there and hating every second of it, whilst trying to do honest Brixton. And at that stage, there was a good 2 months where it wasn't going to happen because we were like, we haven't got any money.
Yeah.
How the hell can we open a restaurant with $7,500? All of the legals to go into a restaurant that we know now cost about 10 grand. So we're like,
you spend $7,500 on a sign.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. So all these things, and Dor was like, "There's no way we can do it." And so I was like, "Please, like, we need to do this. I'm going to fucking kill myself if I have to work in Giraffe anymore." Phil was working in Brighton, working his notice out, which was like a 3-month notice period, which he very sort of diligently gave them.
Honest guy, you see.
Well done. Yeah, it's blues in the name.
Honest by nature.
Yeah, I was like, yeah.
You'd hand your notes in thinking that Brixton was going to happen. That was your reason, or just something was going to happen.
We had a site and we were building it. So
right, okay.
It was for me that this period of us not knowing whether we were going to do Brixton or not. So me basically persuading Dor to just forget about the legals because they're not important, right?
Exactly.
The market.
Dor was like, we haven't got A3. I was like, I don't even know what A3 is. So what? I went around the market, asked everyone. I was like, do you have A3? They're like, what? What's that?
Really?
I was like, no one has A3. It doesn't matter. Come on, let's just do it, please. I really need to do this, and pushed. And eventually, we gave it a go. My stepdad and my mum, he's a carpenter, so he did all the furniture. So we saved tons of money there. My wife's a graphic designer, so she did our branding, which that's 20 grand sort of straight away you can spend and some.
Which has stood the test of time as well, hasn't it?
Which is kind of iconic now. Yeah. I love that. That for
you
me
didn't
was
marry her for that reason. There was
no. We were very much in love before that.
Okay, good.
That was the kind of cherry on the cake, though.
Yeah.
She's very good at her job. But I remember being at Dor's house when we all kind of felt that we had pushed her in that direction in terms of what we wanted, but we were so like it'd be like herding cats of our kind of what we wanted Honest to be. And then she showed us this presentation, and it was the blackboard. And I remember just being like, fuck, that is amazing. Like, I absolutely love that. And it all kind of started to fall into place then. Yeah. That's when I felt like we had something that would really stand out.
Yeah, it's really simple and very cool. So much as I'd love to go into the sort of a detail in real time, because it blows my mind that you managed to open a restaurant in 7.5K. Fundamentally, you did it. First night, Phil, do you remember it? How'd it go?
I mean, do you know what? I don't remember the first night.
I remember the first Thursday night.
Probably a lunch, wasn't it? Because they didn't really open on.
No, we did
soft opening.
Yeah. The first Thursday night, we did 89 covers, and we had those onion shreds on the menu that I nearly threw at you because I was on my own in the kitchen. Dor and Phil were outside doing their thing. I was like melting down because we've just done 89 covers, and they were asking me.
I did hear a rumour you used to hide under the sink. Is that true?
What's that?
You used to hide under the sink because the stress had got
I've done that before. They just go down.
Level. Find some quiet time.
You're pretty exposed in Brixton kitchen. Yeah. So the only way you could expose
you could
hide is just to get on your knees and just go behind. Otherwise, customers could see you. So a few times, if I knew we were going to run out of something, or if the chip quality was poor, or these onion shreds that were on the menu for about 10 minutes.
I totally forgot about onion shreds. What were we thinking?
I know.
It wasn't what we were thinking. It sounded like he was blaming you for those.
Onion shreds?
I know, man. They actually tasted alright, but they were just so difficult.
Oh, it was like a quartered onion.
No, they were like tobacco onions that we do on the specials now. They were a bit like that.
What the hell?
And I was like struggling badly.
Yeah.
And they were like, Tom, where are the onion shreds? And I was just like, don't fucking talk about onion shreds now. And I'm like, you're lucky I'm still standing.
Hard work, yeah. No, it was. I can't pinpoint the original early shifts, but like that. I just remember it being busier than we thought.
Yeah.
Almost instantly.
Yeah.
like we were of the mindset that nobody has a clue who we are. Nobody really comes to Brixton Market. Yeah, it wasn't what it is, what it became.
Yeah.
Like, if we do 200 burgers a week, it'll be worth it. And I think Dorian was always like, okay, lads, you have a bit of fun in Brixton.
Yeah.
I'll still be out there trying to find some investment.
Yeah, doing it properly.
Yeah.
And then, of course, this thing just exploded on us. You know, people, I don't know, like, there's that kind of perfect storm of burgers being good, being super cool and trendy, you know, the meat wagon effect, Byron, you know, people talking about burgers, Brixton Market being edgy, and that just sends people in London on a spin, doesn't it? They just love to think they found this
latest
undiscovered,
cool
edgy kind of place. And it just, we just had this perfect storm of, and look, that being too modest, you know, we served a really great burger and chips.
Well, I was going to say, where this goes from a lucky story of right time, right place, you guys are obsessive, aren't you? You don't compromise. Fundamentally, seems to be the gist I got looking into you in the last couple of days.
We really don't. I think it's always been about, and this is why street food's so great, and this evolution now you see, this sort of food scene in London of street food traders who've now got 4 walls. It's just everything that food should be, in my opinion.
Yep.
You know, people who do something because
That
was your chair.
I thought it was a horn.
I really hope that was your chair.
in this small room.
Yeah, this evolution now, and so we were absolutely adamant that the burger had to be done a certain way, and the chips in particular. So that first month was just this, what I call now our quest for kind of homemade food, because we believed in, but actually had ourselves really tested, because this unit that we were in was not much bigger than the room we're in now.
I had no idea how to do it.
We were hand making and hand cutting potatoes out of a bag, boiling them, cooling them, frying them, cooling them, bagging them up, serving them for the day, run out, start again the next day, every day. And it was just getting busier and busier.
Absolute, like, that was the biggest test, I think, of our kind of sanity was...
We questioned it. We were like, can we really do these homemade chips? Because for us, they're as important as the burger. And actually, I always cite 2 main motivators. One, we had Jay Rayner came down and review us, which is mental anyway.
Yeah, amazing.
Well, he reviewed the market, to be fair, and we kind of...
Okay, I was going to say, do you know how you ended up on his radar? But
he lived in Brixton, so I think he just
lived around
saw
the
this
corner.
food scene. So he talked about quite a lot of restaurants in the market, but he mentioned us quite specifically about the aged meat juices running down his wrist, and
what your
he
chips
called
were
our chips edible crystal meth.
I read that. That's great.
So we had that, and that gave us a little boost to go, right, no, keep going, guys, keep going. And then our competitor, you know, Tom Bing, well, we didn't see him as a competitor, I'm sure he didn't see us as one then, but the owner of Byron came down to check us out, and he told us to our faces that he didn't think it was possible to keep making our own chips.
Really? Wow.
That if we wanted to grow the business, even in that restaurant, or even certainly to 2, that we wouldn't be able to keep making our own chips. So for me and Tom, that was certainly enough incentive.
That's a motivation, isn't it? There you go.
So kind of off the back of that, we went and got ourselves we convinced Federation Coffee, the coffee shop, remember? They gave us they had a roastery off site, and they gave us a little corner for 2 fries. Right. So we managed to get someone in there every day, then get ahead of ourselves on making chips, and that really then just unlocked.
And it's that obsession with the detail, and I talk about this a lot in this podcast, but you know, a lot of the members of the public would have no idea how hard it is to make a decent portion of chips and how time-consuming it is.
All year round, it is the hardest thing that we do, I think, from a food perspective.
By a mile.
And I get why people don't do it.
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying now, Tom.
You know, you look at the big boys; they're investing millions of pounds in the facility, in R&D, like McCain's and Lambert's and all those people, to get a consistent chip. Like
a remarkably average one at that.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, as consumers, people are kind of okay with it, and they'll spend £4 on a portion of frozen chips, and it's like, all right, we just didn't want to do that. We were going to do 2 things: burger and chips. I don't want any one of those things to be available everywhere, you know. And that frozen chip that you get, that everyone has had many times, is available in like 1 million restaurants around the world. Like, we don't want to be part of that club. We wanted to have our own thing that is much more difficult to get your head around, but the rewards are like, you know, next level. They're so much better. So we were like on a mission to do it, and nearly broke us for sure. And I'd be lying if I didn't say there were many times where I thought, actually, we're going to have to just tap out and do frozen chips, and maybe we'll still have rosemary salt on them. They'll still be a little bit better, but big part of me would have died, I think, if we.
I remember one day, this is where we ran out on Saturday night with about half an hour to go, and you were actually away that weekend. It was one of the first weekends I think you'd ever taken off in that first year. So I was in the kitchen. I remember getting home. We were living with my girlfriend's mum at the time in Norbury, and I got home dejected on Saturday, and I was like, I don't think we can open tomorrow. I've got no chips. I just don't know how I can get in, make enough in the morning. I've got none at all left. And bless her, and I sort of sat there in a pit for about an hour, and I was like, no, we've got to figure out a way. We've got to do this. Got to do it. And Helen, my girlfriend, and her mum actually came down with me, and were making chips off site. And it was literally like they'd bring me the next bag just as I was about to run out serving customers.
Yeah.
So I get me through for another 20 minutes, and then the next bag would arrive and got me through that Sunday. And I remember, for me, I was like, we're never going to be in this position again. Never going to feel like that again. And this is when, this prep kitchen just, I think, for me personally, I was like, we've got to nail this.
Had you already bought the chipper at this point, the 700
No,
one? Or so you were still in the hand?
I was going to talk about it, because that's what that's a stupid thing to say, but what you don't know, you don't know. And we just didn't know, but I genuinely didn't know that. Obviously, I knew that McCain's made chips and they made thousands of tons a week. I didn't know how they did it.
No.
And I wasn't intelligent enough to just Google and be like, how do you make chips? And let's go. We were just so busy and so frantic. And then we came across this chipper that, was like a miraculous sort of bit of machinery that could do what we would do.
I think I cried when I first saw it.
We're on about version 25 of those chips.
It was like 40 minutes for a human being to hand chop a 20-kilo bag of potatoes, like the record. And we picked this sack of potatoes up and chucked it in a chipper, and about a minute later we had chips.
I'm nearly crying now hearing about it. I can imagine.
We were like, I don't think it was that we probably weren't as aware, a bit naive maybe, but we were also like, got to be handmade, got to be hand cut, and actually, it felt. I remember feeling like, shit, is this a compromise? And actually, I remember that first chipped chip and holding it against the hand cut one and being like, oh, okay, they're literally. I don't know why are we so worried? Like, you cannot tell the difference at all.
Because luckily, potatoes are different sizes and shapes.
We used we were using the whole potato, so we were skin on.
Different.
Whole potato, so you get the end bits are a lot shorter and the middle bits are a bit longer, and I was just, it just opened the doors to us, just going right now.
And the reason I'm spending a fair bit of time talking about it is I think people look out and they just go, lucky, burger and chips, 36 venues or something like that. But it's those points where you don't compromise that make the difference and set the scene, I think, for the next.
I think so, man. I think look, if you have any success in life, there's always a bit of luck. There's also an equal portion of bad luck you get as well, which we've had a fair share of. We just don't really talk about stuff like that. But, the tackling something that no one had ever done didn't faze us. And that was the thing that I was like, that's what I love about Phil and I love about sort of Dora, is we were so committed to doing something differently. Whatever it took.
None of you said, get down to Iceland.
Yeah, we thought about it. Like, naturally, you go to some dark places when you're on your knees in a kitchen with like 100 people queuing up for it, but it's we knew deep down we'd find a way. I think we had to, because we'd served, even that very first chip we served back at that 18-year-old birthday party, that's what people came for, with our spa chips, and we couldn't go back against that. And I know today, if we put a frozen chip on the menu, I would hope we would lose every single one of our head chefs, every single one of our managers. I would really hope they would walk out the door straight away, because I'd be following them, and stuff like that you can't go back on. That is what we feel proud of, and I put a huge sort of emphasis on our success because of that kind of stubborn doggedness that we were like, we'll make this work or it will kill us.
And I think with a name like Honest, having that integrity and authenticity is kind of fundamental, really.
It was a real firewall, as it should be. It really made us think on certain things. Like, should we think with it? Actually, no, we can't do that. No, that's not.
Well, we're going to come into shortly how you are a chain and not a chain, and I'm aware that you both hate that word. And one of the key reasons I was excited to come and speak to you is because you're one of the few people that seem to be walking that tightrope in such an impressive way, and we'll come into details of that in a minute. But before we do, I just want to go, so you go from that sort of, carnage, learning about each other, learning that authenticity is key. What's the point where you go, right, we're going to go again? And how long was it before you opened the second one?
This is really the Dorian impact, I would say. I think we very quickly fell into our kind of roles, and Tom very much on the food side of the business, and me being more front of house, sort of people and service point, and Dorian kind of slotted very quickly into just being the commercial head behind the scenes, really. So
Nice.
he was out there already thinking about number two. You know, he'd come off the back of growing businesses. You know, he knew what it felt like and what it took. So I just don't think we'd have had the guts or the know-how to do that so quickly.
No, it was good. Yeah, Dor kind of, because bear in mind we'd worked in busy restaurants, but I was 24. Yeah, so it's pretty naive, and we had quite a bit of, you know, it was like a contained success because it's in a, you know, tiny little shoebox in Brixton. But I think you could have lost yourself a little bit in that, and you could have got a bit carried away and not focused on what we need to be focusing on, which is this is an opportunity to do something amazing, not just kind of sit back and think we're, you know, Burger Kings now because we've got we've got one restaurant, and you know it was we had queues at the door. It was very much for us to be like, this is an opportunity. Let's see what we can do with it. So Door going into Soho was a big step, you know, to raise proper money. I think that restaurant cost us about 200 grand.
Okay,
Which is
so we had to that was your second one.
Yeah. So we had to get, we did like a friends and family whip round.
That's still a good, you know, I don't know how big it is. How many covers is that? Is it?
It's about 40 at the time.
40,
We've done
yeah.
the basement since now, so we've got more downstairs.
Right, but it's still not a stupid amount of money to open.
Yeah, well, again, we
That
did
was
a
tight.
lot.
It was a tight
The
restaurant.
premium was 120, I think.
That's basically what we needed the money for, I think.
Yeah,
Everything else
massive premium, and we did-
financed from the...
The rest, we did all the strip out ourselves. It was an old Indian restaurant, so I remember, because Brixton Market was closed Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night at this point, so I would go up on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night and just demolish as much of it as I could to get it out before the builders came in. So it was like ripping up tiles. I cut a walk-in fridge in half and nearly cut my leg off at the time with this like massive angle grinder.
That would have been bad.
Yeah, no, that was
That would've been
the
expensive.
moment where I
No.
was like, so I went to a builder's next door and doing a development, and I said, have you got an angle grinder? And I was expecting, you know, little handheld kind of, I could just go to this massive walk-in fridge and be like, just cut it in half. And the guy was like, yeah, it's over there. And this one's like this big,
Petrol-driven
proper
kind of,
beast. So I was in there on my own at like, you know, 8 o'clock at night, and I went through this walk-in fridge and hit a bit of metal, and it just spun off and just went straight past my leg, and I was like, kind of put it down. But we did stuff like that, and I quite enjoy stuff like that anyway, but we needed to, because we knew we didn't have the budget, and Door had good contacts with project managers and builders who'd done bigger projects, and they kind of all saw the fire in our eyes and saw that we needed a bit of a favour, I think, and, you know, paid off for them because they got lots of work out of it afterwards. But we opened that site, and I think we thought we'd massively cocked it up because we'd opened in the middle of the Olympics, so it was dead. And, you know, TfL kind of screwed over most of London, telling everyone not to...
Yeah, don't go outside.
Don't come into work, stay at home, lock the doors. Yeah. So we opened our doors to the restaurant, and it was empty.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, that's bubble burst. We're going to last about a month, and then we're going to run out of money, and then that's that.
Yeah, it was like, okay, we've been a bit arrogant here.
Yeah.
No one really knows who we are.
Yeah.
We're now in Soho, but
I'm wincing because I'm very much aware of that terrifying feeling.
Oh,
Of
man.
almost like you can almost vomit just through the fear.
It's
of,
like you
oh,
can
shit,
wade
we
through
screwed up.
the tension in the air when you've got like a member of staff there and they're sat twiddling their thumbs, nothing to do,
You're
and
just
you're
watching the
this
payroll.
here
the
pin
worst
drop.
things in restaurants happen when they're quiet as well. The worst mistakes happen from our point of view.
Yeah,
So-
people
I just, you know, I'd come off the back of a year of trying to manage a 2-hour queue every night in Brixton.
So it was a year between the two, was it? Between
About
the
a
first
year
one and
almost
the
of the day, yeah.
Right.
So in June 2011, I think we opened in Brixton, and
Yeah.
so it wasn't nice for a couple of weeks, and then
We held our nerve though, didn't we? We
did hold
we
it,
just
but-
about.
I wanted to put like A-boards on Wardour Street and Dean Street and put all our amazing quotes in the windows and reviews, and something we always said we wouldn't do. Tom held the line. He was like, "Don't do it, man. Don't do it. We'll be fine." And then, sure enough, the Olympics finished, and
it
off we
changed.
went. And that really was the moment for me. I remember telling friends and family at that point, you know, look, we've just done a second one, and we didn't change our prices. Everyone thought we put our prices up.
Yeah.
Didn't feel right to us. Everyone thought we'd add stuff to the menu. We didn't, and it was just the same format. and it was crazy busy again, and that's when I realised we could have a few of these. I was like, there's no reason we can't have
Really?
4 or 5.
Okay.
I didn't think 37, but
Yeah. So how quickly then? So you do 2 in a year in essence, and then presumably what happened in year 2? How quickly did you start opening venues?
Bit
So we did
easy,
Camden next, and Camden's a bit more like Brixton, so it's a small unit, cheap.
Portobello.
It's like 50 OK to fit it out. So, yeah, we kind of. I mean, we had some
1 or 2 a year for a couple of years, and then
Okay.
I think we did some. We both did some soul searching in terms of what was needed of us now, because it wasn't work. When we did Brixton Soho, in some ways it was easier because it was like, I just need to be chained to that grill, cooking the best burgers on the planet, and Phil needs to be serving them and doing the best job. So that was kind of a bit more simplistic, and then you get this opportunity and you have to step up, and now you're like, oh, now I need to try and manage a load of chefs. And Phil needs to manage a load of front house people, and we need to manage ordering, and I need to start to think about stock takes and GPs and I don't know, a new site and fit out and customers who are going to come in and all this stuff. And it was just like, Jesus, how do we...
Technology, probably, EPOS systems, all that kind of stuff. I sometimes feel more like a tech company than a restaurant company, and miss those old days of being just like,
simple,
what would you like to eat?
We've still
Great,
got
I'll get it
the
for
first till.
First ever tills around.
First ever tills over there, and it's literally just one of those, I think we bought it from the cash and carry for like 50 quid, and it's like...
push a button and the till opens.
No, like now you've got like 20 tablets servicing...
Yeah, centralised
all
reporting.
the bloody... delivery concepts out there. So
our industry, we love a report, don't we?
So many KPIs. So at what point then, so let's get into this kind of, scaling up, because this is the bit where I think, like I say, fascinating that you've managed to do this so well. But at what point do you decide, you've centralised kitchens, for example, and then you've even now set up your own butchery? Did they come together or were they split apart? Or?
No, so we'd done, so we'd moved at this point. We were at a second prep kitchen, which is in Brixton in an archway. So I did... Yeah, I was like, this is the formula for us, the prep kitchen side. It worked because it's a cost saving was a big one. We didn't have to put in specialist bits of kit in every restaurant. We didn't have to have space for specialist bits of kit in every restaurant. At like premium central London prices, we could just get a little space outside, and and this was in Brixton, and run it all from there. And
how many venues did you have at this point when you opened the prep kitchen?
Well, the second prep, we always had a prep kitchen. So the first one was Brixton. That was about a month or 2 months after we opened. We got this. We rented a little space in this, derelict warehouse, basically. The time we got a proper prep kitchen was probably site 3. Let's say Camden. When we got there, then we had our own. And it was, if you could just time lapse that archway over the next couple of years, it just went bigger and bigger and bigger. More equipment, more fryers, more fridges, more chippers. Everything just increased.
It's still in the same location now?
No. Now we're in. I mean, that was probably a 500 square foot archway.
Oh wow. Okay.
Now we've moved. Since then, we've moved to our 4th prep kitchen, which is about 7,000 square foot. We've always done it, we've had to do that. That was back in our mentality when we had 5 restaurants. Every single penny we spent was on the restaurant.
Yeah.
And it wasn't on anything else. And we were, we knew the prep kitchen was important, but we didn't invest in it like we should have done, I think, in terms of putting in, things that aren't incredibly labour intensive and very physical, very manual. Right. But we made it, and we had a good. We had a guy called Rasim, who was our prep kitchen manager. He was great and really helpful and worked hard. But you had to bust your arse off when you're in there. It's proper. If you had to, every minute counted, and you were just frying chips like a madman.
But it was close enough to the restaurant, so you could deliver.
You literally just walk stuff over with these little trolleys and wheel them over, and then we started piggybacking deliveries on our suppliers, going into Soho, going to Camden.
It's just reminded me, actually, I'm having a flashback. I'm going to ask you the story because I thought it was great when I was listening this morning, just thinking back to your early deliveries. And there was a story of you in the early days rocking up to pick up bread and meat, I think, and gaffer taping a load of bread rolls. You sounded like the Michelin Man. Because by contrast, I suppose, to how professional you've become with that kitchen, you just tell that story of why that happened.
So it's when we first decided. Yeah, that was like before we actually opened Brixton. It was we needed to get a butcher's on board because that was a big part of our brand was going to be about good quality meat, which would be well sort of sourced, well farmed, and tasted great. So Ginger Pig were the only butchers that actually were interested in working with us, believe it or not. All these old school butcher dudes I'd speak to just weren't interested. They were really patronising and patted me on the back and sort of told me to move on. We got Ginger Pig on and they were really up for it, and they got great meat, and we really liked their brand and all that kind of stuff. But I hadn't told them where Brixton, I didn't tell them we were opening up in Brixton, which is a massive sort of faux pas on my point. So eventually I signed all the forms to get our account set up, and then he phoned me up straight away and was like, we can't deliver to Brixton because, we can't just send a van all the way from Marylebone down to Brixton and back with like 20 quid's worth of beef mince. It's just not going to work. So I was like, doesn't matter, that's fine. I've cocked this up. I've got a new bike. I'll cycle to Brixton and to Marylebone and back and do that and collect the meat and chuck it on my back, thinking I can, do this without impacting everyone else. And then I went into work one day and the bread hadn't been delivered because they hadn't got access to the market. So I phoned the bakers and said, right, drop it off at Marylebone. I'm going there anyway. I'll pick it up. I didn't consider how I was going to put 200 buns on my back at that point, but I was like, I'm going there, I'll sort it out. So then, I got some masking tape and put all the bread in a bin bag, which, bread is not well travelled in bin bags. Chucked it all in there.
They use those crates for a reason, I suppose.
Probably to protect them. But I got some masking tape and got this butcher who actually, we went to Ginger Pig a couple months ago, and the same butcher was there, and he was like, I was the one who duct taped.
No way, really?
No, he was the one who took the photograph, wasn't he? So I was just stood there, just like, casual as anything, with like the rich people of Marylebone buying their sausages, and I was just getting bread duct taped to my back.
Brilliant.
And I got it back, but luckily, so that moment, the butcher took a photo, sent it to Tim, who's the owner of the Ginger Pig, and then Tim was like, he came down to Brixton the next day. He's quite a big ask of a Yorkshire farmer, and he came down and loved it, and we had a good chat. And he was like, all right, I'll deliver meat to you.
Yeah. It shows that dogged determination. I think sometimes people love that. People
I think
respect you.
It went a long way for him because he's old school, he's been proper old school, and he was like,
mucking about.
I like you, I like what you've done, and we cooked him a burger, and he loved that, and he was just like, oh, thank God, now we've got a good relationship with the butcher, and I learned tons of him, learned tons about meat and tons about farming, so it was useful contact.
Is that picture on the website somewhere of you as the Michelin Man with duct tape bread, or
We
did
don't
you hide that?
have the picture
yeah.
of him being chapped up because that was the butcher's phone. I've got a picture of what it looked like when he
arrived
to the restaurant.
Yeah.
And I had to break it to him that we couldn't use a single one of those buns because they were completely crushed.
Yeah.
We've got a picture that we, of that actual bag. And
Did you go, hats off to him, that's good effort, or did you think my business partner is a twat when he walked out?
We never pat each other on the back, so I'm sure.
He just got the piss out.
That's like good effort, man. I mean, I've already preempted the fact we can't use them. And, it definitely, it's one of the things I love about it.
Yeah, it's why you work together.
We're not going to give up for a little thing like that.
So then,
funnily enough, though, we tell the story at our inductions, and one of the guys put his hand up and was like, "Why don't you just get the tube?"
Yeah. Why did you cycle? I just get the tube.
Yeah, it was like if you have one of those granny bags, you could carry loads of meat and that'd be fine. It's like, shut up.
Smart ass. Yeah. Did he get fired? No, just kidding. So leaping forward again, then, just so by contrast, you end up opening a butchery. What was the reason for doing that yourselves? Is that about quality? Is it about provenance? What's the reason for doing all that in-house?
It ticks off a lot of things, but first and foremost, I think we just felt like there's a few things we need to protect in the business. One is medium rare burgers. It's a big deal for us.
Right.
We always felt like it's a real marker of quality in people's minds, and just we like the way it eats. It's just tastes great. So protecting that as we got bigger was really important to us. I think just we've always liked, just in all areas of the business, like control, as in I would like to know that if our burger's shit today, that it's our fault.
Yeah.
And we like that feeling of it, that accountability. And we had that with the chips, we had that with pretty much everything else on the menu. But like everybody does, we were buying in a patty.
Yeah.
Right? Our specification, the mincing we wanted, the fat content,
supply.
the cuts of beef, but there are times when you think, are we really getting what you think they're getting, and does this taste right? And we just ran into a few issues around scale. Obvious, very worthy issues. Nothing sinister going on here. But yeah, and I think the feeling was actually we need to do this ourselves. And we can.
Could you still sell them medium rare when you were buying them in like that?
Yeah.
Or you could.
Yeah.
So there was a moment when the FSA brought out, because they got a bit blindsided by all these medium rare burgers being sold, and by their understanding, hundreds of people should be dying every day.
Yeah,
absolutely. This isn't okay. But then they brought out a legislation called LTTC, which is less than thoroughly cooked. And I remember we were buying our meat from Select, who were great. We used Select for probably a couple of years, and they helped us sort of bridge this long gap when we had to move on from the ginger pig, and when we used those guys. And they phoned up and said the FSA's got this new accreditation, it's LTTC, and we're registered, we got it. And I was like, I sort of thought, oh, that's brilliant. And then I put the phone down, and I would have thought, and I was like, fuck, we're massively in their hands now. And if they fail an audit, if they get something wrong, they'll lose that accreditation. We can't serve medium rare. So we started thinking, we've got a prep kitchen, we know how to do things ourselves. Why don't we give it a go? So we did. Yeah, we invested, 2 restaurants worth basically into getting a butcher's open, so we had full understanding of what goes into our burger. We could specify the machinery that we use, so we actually chop our meat, we don't mince it, because effectively mincing is just squashing something through a small plate at high pressure, which is terrible for the cell structure, and it denatures the texture. And most minced burgers are minced 2 would be good, but most of them are 3 or 4 times to get the fat content. And if you're putting seasoning in, which we don't, but some do, so you end up with this rubbery, bouncy texture that's a million miles away from what we want a burger to be. So we bowl chop, which is just like you would at home if you were going to make steak tartare on a bigger scale. So you end up with, I use the example with a garlic press. If you smash a garlic bowl through a garlic press, you get a wet pulp.
Yeah.
If you chop that bit of garlic with a sharp knife, you get texture, and you get a much better result, I think. But garlic press is easy. That's in my opinion.
And is this done by hand or by machine then?
This machine, yeah, it's called a bowl cutter. Yeah.
Not back to you pre-chip kind of days.
We've got 10,000 people cutting meat.
Okay.
So yeah.
And what are the rules? I can't remember on the medium rare. I remember back in the early days it was like you have to mince it on the day, or it has to be minced inside. The rules and regs seem to change. But what's the current situation and to qualify to be able to sell your burgers medium rare?
So the LTTC regulation is that accreditation is only applied to a butchery, so it's not even at abattoir level, but the abattoir they need to conform to it. So normally it's increased micro sampling, which is expensive, but getting everything tested, getting swabs, internal, external swabs of the meats, of the carcasses, all that stuff is like a prerequisite and should be happening anyway, in my opinion. The tighter controls come when you get into a butchery, which is what we've learned, becoming LTTC registered butchery, which is a lot about temperature control. That meat has got to go through the line and go back into a fridge, stay below 2 degrees at record speed, and you need to just give it down really. And a lot of these companies are massive, and they turn over hundreds of millions of pounds a year doing what they do, doing what they know best. And then something new comes along and they do not like it, so they're just not interested. And fair enough, they could just sell 10,000 burgers to 10,000, 100,000 burgers to Sainsbury's or whoever. It's not for them to really worry about. So I completely get it, but for us, it's the most important thing we do is to make sure that burger is cooked medium and medium rare. That's 80% of our customers eat it like that. So yeah, we'll jump through any hoop you throw at us to make sure we've got that covered. And like Phil said, it's great. If we fuck up anything these days, it's our fault.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to the not buying frozen chips. It's the ultimate version of that, I suppose, isn't it? Is you've now got control all the way down through the supply chain.
People ask a lot, they say, what do I think about Honest, and why do I think Honest is great?
Yeah.
I I would say honesty is great. The answer I generally give is that I just think sometimes we're just willing to try just a little bit harder.
Yeah, care a bit more.
Yeah, when other people go, well, that homemade chips are quite tough to do actually, we're like, okay, well, let's find a way. And, we just try a little bit harder when it comes to the quality of our food. And so far, so good. We managed to pull it off.
Yeah. Well, carrying on that, try a bit harder, although one question before that, because you end up needing to get some much more serious investment. Presumably there's a point where you go, right, to grow this. So you end up, is it right? Am I right in saying you got 50%, sold 50%, or got 50% investment to get some serious cash in? Is that right?
About that figure.
Yeah.
But all the numbers you hear in the press is always the wrong number. It's our lovely press. They do the homework. But yeah, we took on, I think we were at 9 sites. It was Clapham, wasn't it? When we opened Clapham, that was
Clapham when the deal went through,
Yeah. And it was kind of, we worked our ass off, and we wanted to have a bit more financial security in the company and grow the company. So we started thinking about, selling a bit, and Active, we had quite a few offers on the table from some of the bigger PE houses out there. But then, we met Active and they were great, and they had some really cool brands on their books. And that was a big one for me. I was like, I'd feel proud to have our name next to some of the other guys they worked with.
That was the likes of Leon, was it?
Rafa, Leon, Soho House, finished there. There's some real cool brands they work with.
Lovely.
So we were like, it could be cool to work with them and to learn. We're on this constant kind of quest to keep on learning and keep improving ourselves personally and the business. And that's a whole new world, how the PE world works. And it's very important to be funded correctly if you want to grow a business. So,
and that's been successful. It hasn't felt too different, Phil, I suppose, because sometimes you get these big VCs involved. In fact, you gave the example earlier with Strada and how different it felt for Dorian. But has it felt very different as a company since that point?
No, not at all. And you've got to give Active a huge amount of credit for that. They really are. And I have no basis of comparison in terms of PE houses. They're the only one I've worked with. But, I was expecting different, because you hear the word investor, you hear the word chain, and you go, they just want money, and they're going to try and chip away at what you do. And it's the opposite. I found it the opposite. They've just really dovetailed in nicely with us. They've supported us as a management team. They've really just let us go with it. And they know what's made us, they know what got us to 9 restaurants successfully, and they're not stupid. So why come in and change something that's working, right? So they never once suggested a frozen chip or a reduction of the quality of the beef. If anything, they've always promoted and instigated conversations where can we improve it.
Yeah, well, they were fully supportive of the butchery. For us to say
the butchery, they gave us the money to open our own butchery.
Some people to be like, we could open 2 restaurants and we could make this much EBITDA of that, or we could open a butchery and make our burger better and make everyone in our company feel more pride for us. So they were fully on board of that.
So it's not for them about getting out and doubling their money in 3 years.
Of course it is. Yeah,
is it a longer term.
It's not quite as that. They are more long term. They've done. They've had Leon for a long time. They had Rafa for a long time. They're brand.
They're not hitting credit, are they? They're not sort of 3 year, 3 times.
It's a longer term.
Yeah, which some of them. That's what you've got to be careful of, and that's what we were very cautious of. Is there's PE houses and then there's PE houses, and some of them, like you said, they couldn't give a. Yeah. I'm not going to say it, but an F.
The thing you think of now is, well, like, it's always about the next deal. So once you're in that private equity kind of on that hamster wheel, so to speak, and that there is that about it. We've had a really good experience of private equity, I think, so far. But that you are on a wheel now where, if we sell again, that person needs to think in 3 or 4 years' time, how do they make their money?
Absolutely.
So you're always almost you're 2 rungs ahead now all the time, and that can put pressure on you if you're not thinking about it in the right way, about where you're going to open, where your growth strategy is, where your pipeline sits.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's one of the things that I think has ruined the sector in many ways is this kind of VC-backed property game, buying at 50, flip at 100, somebody else buys in 100, flips at 200, and we've ended up with these massive companies, Pizza Express being owned by a Chinese company with £1.2 billion worth of debt, paying £95 million a year in interest alone, and you think, how did that happen in hospitality? So it's nice to know there's another way.
Listen, I'm not going to sit here and we're still small game really. We're certainly not going to sit here and bemoan or pretend that we're better than anyone else. We've still got a long way to go. But yeah, I know what you're saying, and I think we've been really smart. I'm really proud of our property strategy over the last year or so. What we've not done is gone to these, particularly out of London. We've not gone and highly leveraged ourselves against big glass box, high rent sites in these out of London towns.
It's easy to do. If you go
Really
back
easy.
5 years when everything's flying and the economy's booming and the restaurant, everyone's open restaurants. Like there's a few of the big guys who did it, and they opened sites that had to do 60, 70 grand a week just to break even. It's like
you're just not going to do that outside London.
We got sites that do 12 grand a week, and they are very healthy businesses. And we're very aware of that. We take on little runty sites that no one else is interested in.
You've never forgotten your $7.5 grand investment.
Exactly.
Or the marquee.
There's a property play, but we don't want to be in these areas. We intentionally, we go to Liverpool, you look at Liverpool and you go, oh no, not for us. That's where the chains go. And this is, I know you want to come on to it, but chain versus anti-chain, not trying to pretend we're not one.
Yeah.
We are one, but we don't have to act like one.
Yeah.
And I think that's how we feel. We don't have to act like one. And we're not just going to be lazy and opening Liverpool one or in Spinningfields in Manchester. We're going to go to a street which we think has got good operators on it, a mix of, local indie and just good food, and where good people who like good food are going to go, and those are the environments we like to mix it.
Yeah, no, I think it's brilliant, and we're onto it now. So where it's come up a few times in the podcast, chatting to craft gin makers or craft beer makers, or these kind of more niche who are genuinely small and genuinely authentic. And then I guess the big brands sort of spot this change and they start to copycat and they start to use words that they can use. And whereas you guys are technically a chain, I guess, from the number of venues you've got.
You can say it.
Yeah, is that all right? I'm not going to get thrown out before we finish. But actually, genuinely hats off, because what I loved is reading about how much work you put in, not only from the locations that you choose, not being in the chain strip, but particularly around this idea of collaborating with local providers, and this thing about managers can choose their own local beer, and the fact that there's a burger in each place that's local. Can you just talk a bit about that, Phil?
Yeah, I'm so proud of that, actually. I'm really proud of the effort we've gone to there. And again, to give Thomas credit, going back to the Brickton days, just really pushing the envelope on a special burger. It's before we had this local thing, but just really taking that special burger and going, well, that's the fun time on the menu. We always knew that keep the menu small, keep it core, don't do menu creep, don't make that mistake that chains make. So the monthly special was really our bit of fun, our bit of playtime, and I think Tom deserves more credit than he gets, actually, for really kicking off this, collaborating with other brands and other restaurants, and you see it a lot now, not just burgers. And he was one of the first really to kick that off, and I think off the back of that we realised, actually, let's try and give some of that playtime to our managers. And for me, the part of the business that I think we need to protect is that freedom, that trust in our staff. That's what you lose as you get bigger. That's what, for me, a chain mentality is. It's actually when you start losing faith and trust in your staff, you start giving them reams of service steps and telling them how to look and what to say, because you don't trust that they're going to get it right every time. Okay, and that's where you lose that kind of spirit that you want, that we started with, and we were damn sure we're going to try and hold on to that spirit for as long as possible, because we didn't start like a chain. Some businesses that are chains started like them. It's not about how many sites you've got. I'm absolutely convinced you can have one restaurant and feel like a chain more so than a company that's got 20. It's about how you begin, what you believe in, and how you conduct yourselves. And we definitely didn't start like one. We don't mean to grow like one. So for us, it's about retaining that. What autonomy can we give them, really? You can't fuck around with the Honest Burger. It's the Honest Burger. Well, what can you do? Well, go out into your area, and if you want to work with that deli or you really like that restaurant, go and talk to the chef and let's try and create a burger. And listen, you're going to get the full weight of Tom, who's the expert here. You tell him what you want to do and he's going to come and give you your opinion. And if you've gone a bit nuts and it's not on brand, he's going to tell you. But have a go. Yeah. Go out and create relationships with your suppliers, with local breweries, and have a bit of the menu that's yours. Yeah. And same for the customers. Have a bit of the menu that's yours in Ealing and a bit of the menu. And for us, it's this trusting I'm really, really passionate about. And I call it a 3 out of 5 mentality. And that's what chain restaurants are. And if you think of a review scale, a 3 out of 5 review is when someone just feels nothing for you.
Yeah, indifference.
And I do training sessions for our shift managers. It's called an old school hospitality day, and they have to come with me. I did one yesterday. I had 12 of them in a room, and I'd rather someone hated us than thought nothing of us. I'd rather someone gave us a 1 out of 5 review than a 3 out of 5. Because for me, if you're not trying for 5, when you go for 5 out of 5, you're going to get a few ones. And that's what this industry is about. And Tom maybe will chip in a little bit here. That I think our business is less and less about burger and chips now. It's about the feeling. We're all restaurants. We sell a feeling.
Hospitality, isn't it? It's how you make people feel, fundamentally.
Exactly. It's how we make people feel. For us, that's a really great burger and chips. It underpins everything. But it's the feeling we've got to get across. And actually, if you do it right, you create a human connection. That's what we say to our front of house staff. That's how I talk to them. I say, go out there, have the guts to be yourself. So wear what you're comfortable in. Get your tattoos out. Your hair's yours, not ours. Be personable, have a go. Try and read this customer. What does he want? Does he want to be left alone? That's good service. Does he want a bit of joke? Does he want to connect? If you do that, you got a chance at 5. If you do it and get it wrong, which you will, I've done it. I like touching customers. I've touched the wrong customer. Gone in for a hug.
That as a soundbite. I like touching customers on its own.
Gone in for a hug and regretted it. You risk a 1, right? And that's what chains don't want to do.
Yeah.
They're so terrified. They're terrified of a 1, and when they get a 1, their reaction to it is, right, let's create a rule.
Yeah.
Nobody can touch customers anymore. Which is fine. You don't get that one out. You don't get that 1 out of 5 anymore. Yeah. But you don't get any 5s. You end up in 3. Yeah. You get, and that's what a chain restaurant is. You don't feel anything for a chain. It serves a purpose, and that's. No. I don't care whether we've got 500 or we have 5 or we have 1. I'm never going to give up that we can't still create that special feeling that you get when you go into a place that generally gives a shit about a human interaction.
Yeah, that authenticity behind it, and I think it's impressive because I think it's rare that people pull it off. I think once I was interviewing Mitch Tonks, from seafood kind of places.
I know his daughter.
Do you? Okay.
He's a Bath boy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's where he started with his fishmongers and stuff.
Yeah.
And their kind of aim was 20. He thought once you got above 20 venues, it was really difficult to maintain that independent kind of flavour. Rob Hudson from The Pig, who also did Hotel de Van, seems to get to sort of 12 or 15. Very rarely do people seem to get above 20, maybe 25, and keep that independence. But I think you guys have, which is phenomenal. I think the reason is because you're not doing it to try and hoodwink anyone. It's genuinely authentic, isn't it? You genuinely believe. Because I think I was listening. It wasn't just about collaborating with other people, as in, let's buy a local product and tick the box. But there was an example you were giving about helping somebody out with prepping onions. Was this for a relish or something like that?
Yeah.
And it seemed it was more than just ticking a box. It was a human-to-human connection.
Yeah. I mean, the local element is, it's not, we don't just do it for the sake of it, we do it because it's amazing food as well, right? And same with beer. Some of the best breweries in the world are in the UK. So we get to work with people that are genuinely like masters of what they do. And it means we're, there's reasons to not work with some companies like that. And I get why some of the bigger companies don't, because it is hard. And, allergens is a massive risk at the moment. It's all over the sort of press, and people have been caught off guard and serious consequences happen. So you have to work a lot harder to work with some of these guys, because the level of where they are with their business isn't necessarily where potentially we are with ours in terms of, the food safety side of things. But again, we jump through that hoop willingly. And the example you gave was a girl called Jackie a woman called Jackie who had she got a cheese shop in Cambridge, and we wanted to collaborate with her for our local burger. And that was our first ever local burger, was in Cambridge, because we were so scared of opening outside London that we were like, how can we kind of soften the blow a little bit for the people of Cambridge? We don't want to be this like ballsy London restaurant that so many people do the exact opposite, and they come in, peacock it fully, and like, believe it or not, people don't like that. They much prefer a bit more of a humble approach. So we went in there, got a local beer on the menu, got Jackie to make us this chutney and buy cheese off her, and she was dead against it, because I was like, can't you, only like 5 kilos? And she was like, no way, I can't make it. And she was making her chutney at home. So I got all of our chefs to do all the prep for her, and we just give her the ingredients, and she would turn it into a chutney. We were like, great, now we've got a chutney from Jackie. And stuff like that. Now it's our manager's job, and they go off and they find, Hammersmith have just gone off and found an amazing chili sauce that we've put in their local burger. And we had a great local burger there that we came up with, and they went off and we found the sauce, it's even better.
Yeah, the GM there, Gardo, really took it on. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, so stuff like that is, like Phil was saying, we are prepared to make mistakes because we're really gunning for these 5 out of 5s, and we're giving Edgardo a chance to go off and do his thing, and and his team, they can go to work, wear whatever they want. And yeah, sometimes I walk into a restaurant, I'm like, it's a pretty ropey outfit, but I don't really care, because it's like, no one really cares. We're not inviting people to go, if your chef was wearing a t-shirt that said the wrong word on it. It's like, we don't mind that kind of stuff. We know our customers are generally, their interest is similar to our interest, and that's good food and good service and a great feeling. So
there are standards and rules, and we are serving customers. There's a level of cleanliness and appearance that you need. But what we're trying to say is, like, go out there, and I'm with Tom. There's sometimes I've got a real problem with, like, chippy A boards. When people write stuff like, fat people are harder to kidnap to eat cake. Come in here and have a cake or something like that. Just horrible. And it's like, ugh. And you see it every now and again in our restaurants, and I just have to hold my nuts a little bit and just go, it's all right. It's all right.
Is it the same with your social media? Do you let them manage that on a local level as well?
No, good question.
Nah,
topical.
That'd be hard.
Yeah,
topical.
I think social media. It's Twitter.
Dangerous.
Twitter is like just a complaints forum nowadays. No one really uses it. Well, I remember when we first started on Twitter, it was what Instagram is now. It's a real kind of vocal, friendly place to go and express what you like to eat. And, for me, it was what I was cooking. Now it's just really angsty, and people just getting arsey with businesses. Like, people why TFL has a Twitter account.
They're never get five.
No one's ever saying, thanks a lot, TFL. I had a great journey today. It's just like, I hate you, you've ruined my life. It's like, so many companies out there, and I feel the person who was on the other end of that, it's just like a punching bag.
It's a human being.
There's a great one this morning. Have you seen, there's a chap in America called John Lewis. Have you seen this? I didn't see it till this morning, literally.
Was he getting there with his advert?
Because they launched the Christmas ad yesterday. He's got this guy, and fair play to him, he's obviously got a sense of humour, and he replies to people. There was somebody on there saying, I don't know, thanks for the amazing chocolate cake, and tagged him in and something like that. And he's like, it's fine, it's an old family recipe. And there was like somebody else was complaining that their umbrella had exploded and they got thrown out of a bar and it was his fault. And I can't remember what his response was. He said, I saved you from a hangover. And genuinely kind of funny. But yeah, it seems every year when the Christmas thing went live, which went live yesterday, that will date this programme, so he just gets tagged in everything. But fair play, he's even done his own Christmas advert. It was brilliant. It's worth looking at. Some of Twitter still makes me very happy. But we give our guys in the restaurants the opportunity to manage it locally, and because so much of I think what goes on in the restaurant feels like you kind of need to be there. It's very hard to manage that sort of stuff at head office level because you don't see how busy it is, what's going out.
I'm feeling a bit of this now with our out London sites, I've got to say, and I think it's a conversation where
it's tricky because I remember one of my managers, bless him, who still works with me, but he put, I can't remember what the point was behind, but I just remember him putting up a picture, and he'd done it late at night, and it was a picture of Trump and Putin kissing, and I was like, I saw it in the morning, and I was like, oh God, we can't be that political for whatever point he was making. I was like, can we avoid certain topics? I'm all for lots of banter and stuff like that, but maybe we can avoid politics and
we talk about burgers, and we should never. No one cares what Honest Burgers thinks about Donald Trump.
Yeah, exactly.
No one cares what Honest Burgers thinks about Brexit.
Yeah,
people care what Honest Burgers thinks about burgers. So we and this again, Tom, who's great, sort of ran that side of the business, very adamant. We talk about food.
Yeah.
We talk about
and we never engaged in arguments. If someone got really arsey and kicked off, we just say, all right, sorry, that's that.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, I'll send this manager up who did it to your next training session. You can just go through. Just avoid politics.
I applaud you for it, because that's you gunning for 5 and you got a 1 that day. But
we deleted the tweet.
That's fine. You got a 1. It's all right. Just don't create a rule. Yeah, you'll end up with 3.
And we did. I think eventually, after a few more, we did delete his access to social media. But now we still take the mickey out of him for it, and I love him to bits. So he's just and we have meetings, and we're like, apart from Russell, everybody else, could you mind sort of just helping out? We need to do a bit of promotion on this. But I've named him. Hello, Russell. He'll never listen. Right, I'm conscious of time, and I've used far more than I said I would, so thank you. But just diving quickly into the future. So, what's next? How big does jeez. We're going to say that out. I'm getting tired. Although I'm going to say that they seem to be on a downward trend, and you're on an upward trend. So hopefully that gets me out of that. But yeah, honest, how far are you going? What's the future?
Well, we've got a few more places in the UK that do not have an Honest.
Not in Bournemouth. You coming down there? You coming south?
Bournemouth maybe one day. So yeah, I mean, for me, it's a hard one to answer because it's kind of like we're just going to keep going. we've got we're talking about things that we're investing in. Investing in our people has been something that we've felt a bit like we haven't done that. Phil's always looked after customer. I've always looked after food, and we've got this massive kind of hole in the middle, which is the guys that work for us. And I don't think we've given them enough attention. We've done good things like impact on us making our own burgers from scratch, and giving them good ingredients and stuff like that is a benefit for sure. But we want to be the best employer now. We want people to come to us and really get the kind of support they need in a tough industry, right? It's a very stressful industry. So we want to kind of grow that side of the business for sure. And we're sat in a, I think, quite embarrassing head office. I want to change that, and we want to develop this big, massive, great unit where we can have everything that makes Honest special under one roof. So our head office, our prep kitchen, our butchers, maybe introduce a plant butchery into there as well, because we know that that's something that we've embraced fully in terms of our kind of vegan offering. And yeah, just seeing where we can take the word Honest, because it might not just be burgers.
Okay, that's interesting you mentioned plant, actually, because that was on my radar. You've noticed a big change then, presumably, in the last couple of years, if you're around the plant base.
Yeah, look, I mean, we don't think, it's a bit anecdotal, we don't think that we're tapping massively into the vegan market, but we're massively tapping into the flexitarian market, which I've heard people saying upwards of 50% of the country could be flexitarian these days. So yeah, there's that market there. And we read the news, we're aware of some of the pitfalls when it comes to eating meat. So we're trying to do our best in terms of making sure our chicken's free range. We're looking to increase the welfare on our bacon. All of our beef's always been grass fed. I'm actually meeting with the National Farmers Union sort of head honcho next week to talk about things we can do to make sure that our beef is the best it can be. And being the best at vegan burgers as well. We're not in it to serve some crappy, sloppy chickpea patty. We want it to be the best. So that means we need to invest.
No, I think it's fascinating. We've been buried in that for a while as well. To go back 2 years, and I probably about right, but the veggies and the vegans that were coming into the restaurant and the constant complaints, and transformed in the last couple of years, and now full on plant-based sections of the menu. And a lot of that, I think, hasn't come off the necessarily the anarchist kind of vegan movement, but much more around the environmental impact and recognising that climate emergency, and that we all, any of us entrepreneurial people, especially your culture in Honest, and mine sounds similar, is if you've got that integrity and you want to do things properly, the last thing you want to do is screw the planet over, is there? But I think we're part of the solution. It's not an instantaneous change, it's a trajectory.
We've always been very committed to giving all customers, a decent meal. So we've always done gluten-free. Now vegan is a big trend, and vegetarian is a big trend. So we're kind of working hard to do that.
100%. Tom alluded to this earlier, and almost there, but the role changes hugely, because now, although you've stepped back slightly, Phil, into a more hands-on role, but looking at those days when you were out the front and just managing the queue, and now what you do now with KPIs and all these systems, what's the bit of the job now that gives you the most reward on a day-to-day basis? Why are you still buzzing? Because your enthusiasm still comes across. You love it. Well caught.
Sorry, just took out the mic. What do I get a kick out of people? So I love being around the staff. This is why I kind of gravitate towards the hands-on role. I'm covering a regional director role for 3 months while we bring a new guy in. So I'm not, it's not a permanent move, but yeah, I'm really enjoying managing area managers again. And what do I get about? I like people. I like the more restaurants we have, the more people. So, I had these 12 guys yesterday in a room learning what old school hospitality means as a shift manager for Honest, and 6 hours just going full on how I go around sort of 3 out of 5 mentality and all this kind of stuff, and how we need to behave. So I really get a kick out of that. I love, I'm hugely into the people side of the business, and I want us to be, like Tom said, I want us to be a great employer. And I think we're good, but we're not industry leading. Whereas I think we have industry leading customer metrics. And I think we have an industry leading business model. We don't have an industry leading employer brand yet, but we're getting there. We've got some really, really super cool people in the business now driving that. So that, I get a buzz out of that every day. I get a kick out of trying to be better. But, for me, I'm on a bit of a rant at the moment. because just as an industry, we're letting ourselves down, and I'm pissed off about it, if I'm honest. We're not good employers as an industry. We expect too many hours for low pay. It's traditionally deemed as low skilled, which I wildly disagree with. People don't come out of school thinking they're going to be in the restaurant industry. We've got to change that, with the headwinds that are coming around Brexit and, plant and vegan and just the challenges that restaurants are facing, which are very real. For me, the only way through it is if we've got to just have a big rebrand of our industry. And to do that, a few people have got to stop doing some really shitty stuff, and the rest of us have got to up our game. So that really drives me at the moment. I think, we're just tapping into what honest burgers can be, certainly around the UK and internationally even. And like Tom said, what can we do besides burgers, which is just hugely, hugely exciting. The second track for me that's going at the same time is we need to change this industry a little bit.
Yeah,
that's really well.
Which is, I think, it's not the only reason for the challenge. There's a whole load of history and tradition, and certainly behind the back of house, in the kitchen, the hours that chefs work and stuff like that. But we seem to have gone in the last couple of years through this incredibly, margins are super tight, aren't they? Minimum wage increases, pension increases, food cost increases. I don't know. It just feels like the reason we're seeing very public failures of a lot of the casual dining sector. It's partly because of that margin, which makes it hard to do the right thing.
It's an equation that doesn't no one's necessarily managed to balance, and I understand why. Like you said, we charge £11 roughly average spend a head. So
I think the equation is more about greed though than tight margins.
Really,
I think a lot of those businesses could have done a lot better if they hadn't overstretched themselves.
Yeah, that's
back to those 60 grand rents.
That's included. We started with some really good values and we had great intentions and we done some good stuff, but I agree with Tom. I think in the spirit of what we've been talking about for the last hour and a half, of what we think makes honest great, and that we generally try harder. I think now is the time for us to try a bit harder, and actually there's got to be a way of balancing that equation that you just said.
Yeah, well, good luck with that, because that's tough. 777 people to make happy, and it does become the most challenging bit. But I think it's a huge privilege to be in a position where you can have a positive impact on people's lives, isn't it? And although you probably see all the things that you don't do and should do better, I bet there's a lot of people in there, and there is, who love that culture and love their job. And I'm always amazed by some of the guys who work behind the bar and how much they still feel that real pride and excitement in looking after the customer. But I share the concern on working too hard and not earning enough cash.
It's hard, man. So I think it's important for we Phil talk for each other quite regularly.
Yeah.
But, leading by example is totally underused, I think, and it should be. It's a really important thing, and we've grown personally in this company a lot, and we've had to. But setting the right tone of how we live our lives, I think is incredibly important for all the people that work for us now. And I hear stories of owners of companies, like phoning up their managers at 2 a.m. to fucking bollock them and shout at them, and it's like, who the hell do you think they are? And it's like, we live in a challenging environment that's high stress on a good day. A bad day, it's like can cause mental health problems. It can be really, really tough. So, and then the medicine in this industry is generally alcohol and drugs, which is not going to do you any favors. So there's areas that I really want us to be better at as a company and more supportive. We've started working with an amazing charity called Hospitality Action that offer counselling sessions, completely confidential, just a phone away, or something a bit more serious if it's needed, for all kinds of addictive problems. There's tons of stuff we could all be doing better. And like Phil's saying, the industry is getting better, but it's been pretty archaic. If you think about, the chefs of the 90s and what used to keep them going, and how they would get through life. And there's some questionable practices out there which we don't want to be anything to do with. We want to be an industry and a company that you are really proud to say you work for, and one that's going to give you skills in life that you take with you and go and do yourself. I love it when we have people come work for us and we're like, what do you want to do? And they're like, I want to open my own restaurant. We're like, awesome. Come. I can give you of writing the book on what not to do.
Absolutely.
And explain a few things on, stuff you should focus on. And we've had quite a few businesses come our way and learn a bit and then got off and set up themselves, which is
exciting.
Awesome.
Yeah. There is a certain irony, I think, about the fact that we're in the world of hospitality. We're all about making people have a great evening, great night out, great birthday, anniversary party. Yet behind the scenes was this kind of overworked, overgrafted.
We don't treat our staff in this industry as well as we with the effort we traditionally treat our customers. That's the thing that needs to change.
Definitely.
Well, people think that they can be. We had one of our managers get punched in the face the other day by some drunk lunatic that came into the toilet and came out swinging and just. Really? So it's, like Tom says, that's a normal day. Yeah. That's the kind of stuff that these guys have to deal with. I hope
that's not a normal day.
Well, that's not normal day. Getting twatted in the mouth is not a normal day. But generally, I know with type of time that yesterday I finished that session with those managers and I say, look, just throw stuff at me. Just what you're unclear of. What do you really want to ask? And what am I allowed to do? And I've done it maybe 20 times now. And every single group, first question is, what do we do if someone's being really drunk and inappropriate to our staff?
Right.
Are we allowed to kick them out, Phil? And I'm like, yes, of course you are. And I was just like, how disappointing is that?
Yeah.
How disappointing is it that, I've got, and it was, out of 12, I had 10 girls yesterday, and it's sorry about male, female, but how sad that these girls are feeling threatened or worried that someone's going to come in, touch them, inappropriately, or say something inappropriate, or be drunk, and it's just shitty. And I can't change that, unfortunately. But
the same with we had a guy on Twitter the other day used the C word about one of our managers, and I was like, we responded very kind of politely, and I was like, nah, I'm not okay with that. I don't think we're not going to get into a full blown argument with someone, and we may have done something wrong. We didn't do something that merited that. No. And then the W word followed that. And I was like, come on, man. We're all human beings here. And if a mistake is made, we'll hold our hands up 100%.
Yeah. Well, I think you can normally tell if people respond in that way that whatever happened. And, we always have that difficult position, I think, in the industry as you sort of know that you need to back up your team and that they work for you and you've got to support them whilst always being a little bit conscious of, did we do it wrong? But I think as soon as people come back with that kind of language and that kind of wording, you go, okay, you're actually probably not, the sort of person that we want in the venue anyway.
Which is what we put ourselves well and truly in the public domain. Yeah. So you're going to get some people that
definitely
dubious their intentions.
Yeah,
so it happens, but so I agree with Phil. It's a tough one to crack, but it's one we're really committed to.
Yeah, well, I think it's exciting that with all the stuff you've got going on and all the opportunities that you've got, the fact that is your kind of next priority and that's the thing you're working on, and hearing about the authenticity, as I've said, and the integrity of everything else that you've focused on over the last few years. I'm sure you will nail that one. I'm going to keep in touch because that's such a great thing to try and get right. We've got a head of hugs in our company whose role is predominantly to run our hug club, talking about touching people and hugging people. And head of hugs, that's his job. That's your full-time job. A big bearded guy, big arms.
You've got an ambassador of hugs right there.
Yeah, and he's a good guy. But I always say, look, probably 70% of his focus is on the customer. It's about the loyalty team and looking after all of those people. But 30% is the team. It's kind of hugging the team. It's looking for opportunities to really go out of the way to recognise when people have done great things, because there's no point putting all of that effort and work into looking after the customer and forgetting that the people behind the scenes are the ones. This podcast is called The Humans of Hospitality for that reason. The human beings are what animate it, bring it to life. Otherwise it's dull and tedious.
And people just have shit days.
Yeah, exactly.
You have everyone to an extent copes with life, and some things will blindside you, and you've got to get up and go to work the next day and put a smile on your face. It's fucking hard.
But humans first, business second. I say the same to my team. How we manage each other. I was chatting to a chef just a couple of days ago who'd been a little bit too blunt with one of the team, and I was like, look, it's not that what you're saying is necessarily wrong, but you've got to be a human first. The business case is that person needed to be dealt with that way, but the human case is different. We all need to deal with them differently. So I think it's happening, and other people I chat to in the sector, I think it's happening.
Well, he's more like you, man.
And you guys. So hats off to you. Where should people go? So to follow the story, if they want to join in, where's the best place to go? Website, social channel, anyone particularly good?
Well, Tom? I would say go to an Honest Burgers and ask.
Whilst you're purchasing a burger.
Ask a human being. But we've got all of our, it's Honest Burgers for all of our handles, some with no space, some without space. But Instagram, we've got a few low stories on there. Our website's pretty good these days. But yeah, we like to do the talking with human beings. So if you go you probably go to a restaurant and ask a load of questions and get stone faces now.
Get stony face.
Hopefully, if we've done our job half well, then yeah, you should be able to get some nice answers, or just send an email, get in touch with us. We're more than happy to sit down and chat.
Good. Well, look, thank you again. You've been very generous with your time. It's hugely appreciated. Good luck with what comes next. And you're going to Brighton. Good luck with your afternoon.
Brighton.
And get on your bike.
Thank you very much. Cheers,
guys. Cheers.
Right,
much appreciated. Thank you so much for listening to this week's podcast. And remember that on the website humansofhospitality.co.uk, every week we put on some show notes and some links through to the various websites or social media that are mentioned. And we also do a nice little breakdown of that week's conversations into specific topics, so you can jump through the podcast and just listen to some of the highlights if you wish. If you've not done so already, if you could leave us a review on iTunes or one of the other podcast players of your choice, that would be hugely appreciated. Thank you so much, and we'll be out with another episode next Monday.